Guys, I am so far behind on stuff for this channel. It's not even funny. I got so many knives here. We're going to look at a Sencut knife that I should have gotten around to months ago, but I didn't. So let's look at it today. We're going to look at the Sencut Traxler. All right, guys, this is a knife I definitely should have gotten around to sooner. This is the Traxler by Sencut. Now, this came to me from Jared over at Knives Knives, and I had to say, this thing is one that I should not have overlooked. It got put off to the side because I was kind of iffy about blade shape and stuff like that. But this thing is absolutely incredible. So you got micarta scales, deep carry pocket clip. This is a flipper only deployment, but the flipper tab almost disappears. You've got this really unique sheep's foot style blade, like a modified sheep's foot. It comes up to a high point here, perfectly straight edge. It does not have much of a tip for piercing, if that's something you look for in a knife. The green micarta on this is just done beautifully. So it is in a liner lock configuration, and you've got a cutout here for your lanyard hole, which is attractive. The pocket clip is ambidextrous. Now, so far, I've been carrying this since I got up at about 8:30 p.m., doing some messing around with it. And I have not done a whole lot of cutting, but I got to tell you, the cutting I did do, this thing just screams through material. It's a relatively thin blade stock to begin with, and then it comes down to this almost full flat grind that is just a great behind the edge thickness. And is it ever sharp? Now, it's in 9CR18 MOV, which is a steel that a lot of people don't like, but if you're looking for a good all-around budget steel that's still really stainless, is a decent steel all around that's going to get you where you want to go, that might be a steel you're looking for. Action on this. The action on the deployment is great. I have yet to have a Sencut knife that is not a smooth knife. Now, I've heard people say that when you take them apart, that then you kind of lose that they're not knives you really want to disassemble and reassemble. I have not found that to be the case. But Sencut is Sencut is part of the WE Knives family. So you have WE Knife, then you have Civivi, then you have Sencut, which is their more budget options. But even their budget options are really, really good. Now, we're going to do a couple real quick size comparisons just so you can see, because this is not a small knife. This is coming in at about 8 inches. And with that blade shape, you got a real good usable blade. So let's grab a couple for size comparison. So your first knife for comparison is the Spyderco PM2, and as you can see, very similar in size. You get a lot more blade, though, on this than you do on that. Better blade to handle ratio. And then your final knife, so that you guys have a really good size comparison, is possibly one of the best known knives in the knife industry, the Benchmade 940. So there you go. You can see it's bigger than the 940, about the same size as the PM2. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at this knife. So as I said before, there's a lot of good things going for this knife. First and foremost, how well it cuts. I just find this to be an incredible cutter. If you're doing a bunch of heavy duty cutting and you need something that you can just tear down some cardboard and slash through some cardboard, this may be a knife for you. It's got a nice coating on the blade that has held up. I cut up a good bit of cardboard with it so far. Not too many little streaks and lines on it after I wiped it down, but it has been PVD coated and then stone washed, which has a tendency to make that coating last a little bit longer. It just kind of seems to take some of the friction away, and it just gives you a better overall coating. The edge that's on this, all of the Civivi knives and Sencut knives and WE knives that I've ever had have come with an incredible factory edge. It doesn't feel like there's a burr. It doesn't feel like it's not holding up. And 9CR18 MOV can be done really, really well with a good heat treat. It's a really good steel for that. In hand, really comfortable. You've got a lot of blade here, and then you've got this area here where it ramps up again, where you can kind of get your finger on it and do some detail cutting and things like that, where you can kind of just cut around some stuff with the very tip of it. And then, like I said, with the flipper tab just almost disappearing, it's not too prominent, even in the closed position. I mean, it's not a real big flipper, but then it just kind of drops into that and gives you a really good guard. Access to the lock bar, really, really good. And they've done a good bit of weight reduction, which means that this is still a fairly large knife. that carries nice and light, and it's got that neutral, almost tip heavy balance that I like in a knife, me personally. The pocket clip sits nice in the pocket. It doesn't have too much tension. It has just about the right amount of tension, but you've got that nice lip there that allows you to get it into the pocket, and then it sits nice and deep so that you can carry it forward in the pocket close to the zipper and still have room for other stuff. And even though this is a fairly large, broad knife, it doesn't seem to really block your access to your pocket too much. Like I said, pocket clip is reversible, and the micarta on it is just done really, really well. I don't necessarily like the color of the micarta, but the Civivi and Wii guys, and Sencut guys, they're doing that micarta really, really well. They didn't go too fine on polish. They just left it pretty much raw, so it gives you really good grip. So now there are a couple things I have found about this knife that I'm not a big fan of. We all know that I'm going to find things with almost every knife. So let's flip this around and talk about flip side of the story, flip side of the knife. Okay, so first and foremost, the pocket clip. The pocket clip moves a lot. It's got a lot of play in it. And it's because it's surface mounted. You guys have heard me say this before. I wish they had I just really wish that they had left this, and instead of spending the milling time on that, cut a slot for this to sit in. When you slot that down in, it prevents that slide. And that's not even like, it's not even loose. It just slides back and forth against the screws. So no matter how much you tighten that down, you're going to have that problem. It's not like it just moves a little bit. Like you can move it completely out of position. I hate when companies do that. Next thing, I don't like jimping on. I understand why people do it. I understand why companies do it. It allows you to have better grip on that with gloves. I personally do not like jimping on the liners. And the fact that the liners are coated means that I can't even just put that on a Scotch-Brite and take it off. And then you've got some jimping here. And it's not that this jimping isn't good. I just want jimping further up. On a knife like this where I'm going to reach way up on it, I just wish that it had more jimping further up here, right? That's just one of those things that drives me nuts, is if you're going to do jimping and you do it well, just why not do a little bit more of it? And then the final thing, I don't think that this would be a knife that I would use as much, because without a piercing tip, a lot of the things I do, I'm piercing something, I'm cutting something, I need to get into it. I want a piercing tip, not necessarily as acute as what you see on the PM2, but something a little bit better than this. I do know that this would be great for a lot of things. This would be a great, great knife for line handlers, like if you were if you worked on a ship, things like that. So that's pretty much, oh, there is one last thing. One last thing. There's some jimping right here on the corner of that flipper tab that just is it's kind of sharp and hot spotty when you're bearing down. Like when you're cutting cardboard, not so much, but when you're really bearing down, I did some wood cutting test with it. When you really bear down on it, just that little corner, it's kind of sharp. So that's about all I've got on this. We'll see how I feel about it in the future. I may or may not change my ideas on this knife, but for right now, is it a yup or not? The first carry, it's a yup. I'm digging it. It definitely has its spot for certain things. So with that being said, guys, that's it on this one. Let's turn this around, do some final thoughts, and send you out about your day. Guys, yeah, like I said, this is a really good knife. I think I would want something more along the lines of a Wharncliffe for my day-to-day use, but it's still a great, great knife, especially if you want something for some heavy-duty cutting. It does a great job. So that's it on this one, guys. You guys know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, hit the bell icon. Check out the links down below. There's a lot of links to most of the major vendors, including my Amazon store. It won't cost you anything extra at checkout to use those, but it does support the channel. And if you want to save some money, I've got a couple links down there that have got discounts built into them. Coffee Brain Coffee, Tempered Trail, there's discounts built into the link. All you have to do is just go check out those brands. And if you want to save more money, 10% off at Rosecraft Blades, 10% off at Fair and Forge Knife Works, 10% off at KATSU Knives with coupon code crazysharp, all one word. You can save 40% with that code at Beyond EDC if there's any stock left. Guys, you can also join my membership down below, get exclusive content, giveaways, premium sharpening tutorial series for those guys, and there's a private Discord. There's also a public Discord. There's a link to that down below. Guys, that's it on this one. I love you all. Keep it clean in the comments section. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. I'll see you in the next video.